Machiavelli once warned that the most dangerous people aren't your enemies. They're the ones who smile at you. They look kind, they sound loyal, they act trustworthy. But behind that charm, there's a calculation. Have you ever trusted someone who later made you question your own judgment? Someone who said, "I'd never do that to you," and then did exactly that? It happens more often than we think. Because the truth is, not every kind face hides kind intentions. And that's exactly what Niccolò Machiavelli, one of history's most misunderstood minds, tried to warn us about. In this video, you'll discover the 3 types of people Machiavelli said you should never trust, and more importantly, how to see through their hidden motives before they get close enough to hurt you. Niccolò Machiavelli lived during the Renaissance, a time of political chaos, betrayal, and constant power struggles. He wrote The Prince to teach leaders how to survive in a world where people act out of self-interest, not morality. His core belief? Human nature rarely changes. People are driven by desire, fear, and opportunity. Even today, thousands of years later, that truth still applies. Not just in politics, but in every part of life. Your workplace, your friendships, even your family. Modern psychology calls it strategic behavior. Machiavelli called it survival. Understanding this isn't about becoming cynical. It's about becoming aware. It's about seeing the masks people wear so you're never blindsided. So, let's begin with the first type of person Machiavelli would tell you to avoid. The one hiding behind moral perfection. Type number 1, the overly righteous. The first type of person Machiavelli warns us about is the overly righteous. These are the people who constantly project moral superiority. They always do the right thing, they preach virtue, and they make you feel small for even thinking differently. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." And that's exactly how these people operate. Their goodness is often a mask, a tool to control how others perceive them. Think about a colleague who always volunteers for the right tasks, always points out what's ethical. But when it's time to protect their own image, suddenly rules bend, shortcuts appear, or blame gets shifted. Or a friend who constantly reminds you of their moral high ground, yet subtly manipulates situations to benefit themselves. Psychologists call this moral narcissism, when the ego hides behind virtue. The scary part? These people often seem harmless, even admirable, until their true motives surface. And here's the hard truth. Most intelligent people fall for this at least once. Because who would suspect someone preaching goodness of having a hidden agenda? But if the first type hides behind goodness, the second hides behind something even more emotionally powerful. Loyalty. Type number 2, the overly loyal. The second type is the overly loyal. At first, they seem like the safest people to have around. They support you, defend you, and make you feel valued. But Machiavelli warned, men are less careful about offending one who makes himself loved than one who makes himself feared. In other words, loyalty can be a subtle form of control. Overly loyal people often tie their value to how much you need them. They want to be indispensable, not out of care, but as a way to gain power or influence over you. Imagine a coworker who flatters you endlessly, always agrees with your ideas, until you get promoted or start making decisions independently. Suddenly, their support fades, or worse, they quietly undermine you. Or a friend who cheers for you only when you're beneath them, but becomes competitive or distant as soon as you surpass them. Psychologists call this emotional dependency, when someone uses attachment as leverage. The lesson here is shocking yet empowering. Loyalty isn't always love. Sometimes it's just another way to gain control. And finally, the third type is the most dangerous of all, the one Machiavelli himself feared the most, the ambitious pretender. Type number 3, the ambitious pretender. The third type, and perhaps the most dangerous, is the ambitious pretender. These people don't attack openly. They don't reveal their intentions. Instead, they mirror your values, your habits, even your ambitions, all while quietly positioning themselves to surpass you. Machiavelli warned rulers to beware of those who pretend to serve, but are actually using their proximity to gain power. In modern terms, these are the people who study you carefully, learn your strengths and weaknesses, and then wait for the perfect moment to outmaneuver you. Think of a colleague who copies your work style, then subtly takes credit for your ideas, or a friend who admires everything you do, only to compete with you in ways you never anticipated. Psychologists call this opportunistic empathy, the ability to connect just enough to gain trust, all while advancing one's own agenda. The danger? You often don't see it coming because they appear supportive, even friendly. They exploit trust, observation, and timing to get ahead, without anyone noticing. So what can you do when surrounded by these people? Machiavelli's advice isn't to withdraw from the world. It's to observe, understand, and act strategically. Machiavellian solution. So, how do you protect yourself from these three types without becoming paranoid or cold? First, don't isolate yourself. You can't avoid people entirely, and trying to do so will only limit your opportunities. Instead, observe carefully. Pay attention to actions more than words. Patterns always reveal true motives. Second, balance trust with awareness. Machiavelli didn't teach cynicism. He taught strategic perception. Learn to give trust selectively and never hand over power blindly. Third, adopt this mindset. Appear kind, but see through motives. Be polite, be professional, be empathetic, but always watch the subtle signs. From a psychological perspective, this is about emotional boundaries. Don't let others manipulate your feelings. Watch behavior, not charm. Notice how someone reacts when there's nothing to gain. That often reveals who they really are. When you do this, something incredible happens. Suspicion transforms into clarity, fear becomes strategic confidence, and you start navigating relationships without being taken advantage of. Because in the end, Machiavelli didn't teach distrust, he taught awareness. Let's quickly summarize the three types of people Machiavelli warns us about, so you can spot them before it's too late. 1. The overly righteous. They hide control behind moral perfection. Their goodness is often a mask for manipulation. 2. The overly loyal. Loyalty can be a weapon. Some people tie their value to your dependence, not genuine care. 3. The ambitious pretender. They mirror your values and ambitions just to get ahead, silent, subtle, and dangerous. The ultimate lesson? Trust actions, not appearances. Words can be polished, smiles can be charming, and flattery can feel comforting. But consistent behavior reveals true intentions. Keep your eyes open, your mind clear, and your emotional boundaries strong. This is how you navigate relationships wisely, without becoming cold or cynical. Now that you know who not to trust, the next step is learning how to think strategically, without losing your soul. If this video gave you clarity on spotting hidden motives, subscribe now for more wisdom from history's greatest minds, applied to modern life. Remember, awareness is the first step toward true empowerment. See clearly, act wisely, and protect your energy.